Hello and welcome. In this session, we are going to learn how to run Postgre on top of a Docker. So before we go and start Docker for Postgre, let's understand what Docker is. If you are not heard about this word Docker, which is not possible, but just to give an overview. So Docker, it is an open platform for developing, shipping, and running the application. So in this case, in our case, we are assuming Postgre as an application. We will package it in a container and we will try to run on top of the Docker. So with Docker, you can manage your infrastructure and you can manage your application. And by taking the advantage of Docker's methodology, you can ship, test, and deploy the code very quickly. So the modern infrastructure wherein everything has to be done quickly, efficiently, and the code has to be deployed efficiently in the in production environment, the Docker is being used like anything. There will be one more term. So this is not the complete detail about the Docker, just a couple of lines, and then what a container is. Container is it's a runnable instance of an image. So for our case, we are going to run an image of Postgre, which will be latest image. So what we can do, we can create a start, a stop, and delete the container using the Docker API or the command line interface. So in our case, it is PostgreSQL containers that we are going to use. We can connect to that container from one or other network. We can attach the storage or we can create new images based on the current status. So two terms, one is Docker and another is the container. And basically, it's an image of PostgreSQL in our case. So when you remove a container, so what happens? Whatever data is stored inside it, it will not be available. So what we are going to do, we are going to install Docker on top of Ubuntu system. So uh, I have created one EC2 instance having the Ubuntu as the operating system, and we are going to run some of the steps so that container can be initialized on top of the Docker. So the first thing which we are going to do is we are going to remove any existing Docker if a older version of the Docker is existing, right? So we are saying sudo apt-get remove Docker, and we are going to remove it. So unable to locate package, so there is nothing like that. So we are going to the second step. So we are just going to update the Ubuntu system. So it's this commands are very simple, and you would have gone through most of these commands earlier as well. So sudo apt-get update. So we are updating the Ubuntu system. This has been executed, so this is not going to take much time. The most important part which is coming now is how to install Docker on Ubuntu. So we are saying sudo apt install docker.io. So this is the command which is very important, and make sure you don't skip this. So once this Docker is installed on your Ubuntu system, you have to say sudo systemctl start Docker. So this will be appearing as a daemon. So sudo systemctl start Docker. This has been started. Then you can enable the Docker when your server restarts. So that should come up. So it is enabled. Now you can check the status of Docker using the systemctl status command. So we are saying sudo systemctl status Docker, and you can see that it is in the running status. The next step, which is we are just going to check the version of Docker. So we'll say Docker -- version. So Docker version 20.10.7 is our Docker version. The next step which we are going to do is we are going to pull the Postgre image. So this is the step to pull Postgre image and the container. Let's pull Postgres image on Ubuntu system, and where from it is going to pull? It is going to pull from the Docker Hub. So we are saying sudo docker pull Postgre. So if you don't mention the version, it is going to pick the latest version with the tag latest. Otherwise, you have to mention the tag. So how do we verify all existing Docker images? So we'll say sudo docker images. Sudo docker images. So you can see there is a Postgre image available and there is one MySQL image available. Now what we are going to do is, once verified, we can go ahead and start the Docker instance for Postgre. So we'll say sudo run hyphen hyphen name. What's the name you wanted to give? Let's say I'll say 3. Sudo docker run hyphen hyphen Postgre hyphen docker underscore 3 hyphen e. We are giving the Postgre password as password, and the port number is 5433, and database is Postgre. Let's try to run it. If it doesn't exist, then it will create, else it will throw some message on the screen. Okay, it has created it, and the name of this is going to be Postgre Docker 3. So we are going to use this name. Now say sudo docker ps. Now we wanted to check what are the containers that are running, right? So we just created a Docker with a Postgre image with the name Postgre Docker underscore 3. There's the container ID, and it is the image of Postgre database. And this is the command. It has been created 24 seconds ago. The status is up and running, and this is the port where it is going to run 5432, and this is the port listening port 5433, and this is the listening port. This is the default one. Now what we will do is we are going to connect with the Docker Postgre container, and we are going to use the PSQL command line. So we'll say sudo docker exec hyphen it Postgre hyphen. So what is the name? The name of the Postgre container which is just initialized is this one. So we'll put the name over here, sudo docker exec hyphen it Postgre hyphen docker underscore 3, and the username is Postgre, and we are going to execute it. Once you execute, this will show you the Postgre prompt. Now whatever commands you wanted to run, you can run over here. So if you just say /l, this will show you the list of the databases. So you say create database test db. So this is going to create a database with the name test db. So just say L. So you can see you have created a database test db. If you wanted to connect, you can switch to that database. You are now connected to the test DB. So if you wanted to create a user, you can create the user, you can change, you can do a number of things in this Postgre image which you have just created for yourself, and it is running as a container, and you have pulled this Docker image from Docker Hub. So there are a few additional commands which you can try. We are not going to run more commands on this because this is just how do we go to PostgreSQL command prompt through the Docker. So this command, sudo docker hyphen hyphen version, this will show you the version of the Docker. And how do you want to pull the Docker image? So you will just say sudo docker pull, and if you wanted to pull uh, any particular image, let's say MySQL or MariaDB. So you can pull those images over here, right? And if you want to list down all existing images which is installed, you can just say sudo docker images. That will show you what all images are available. So you will simply say sudo docker images. So we created an image of Postgres. We pulled it from Docker Hub. The size, you can see, it is just 315. Then we pulled an image of MariaDB just now, and this is latest version, and this is just 409 MB over here. And if you wanted to run a particular Docker, so you just have to say sudo docker run it-d, and then you have to mention the image name, right? And you mention the image name and it will be started. We are not going to start anything else. And if you wanted to see uh, which container is running as of now, so we just initialized one of the container which was of Postgres. So you can see there's the Postgres container ID. This is the name of the image, and then it was just 5 minutes ago it was initialized. It is up and running. This is the port number default, and this is the port where it is listening as of now, and the name of that is Postgres Docker 3. What else we can do is, if you simply say to list all the Dockers with the status, I think this we have just executed. All right. Then moving on to the next command, wherein how to access the sudo docker container. So we can just do this. So what you need to do is sudo docker exec hyphen it, and container ID you have to mention. Let's say I wanted to execute this one. So I'll just say sudo docker exec hyphen it, and then I have to mention the container ID and bash. So it will be executed. If you wanted to remove a particular container, you can remove it. You can mention the container ID, and before that you are supposed to stop the container. So we'll say sudo docker stop, and this is the, and if you say sudo docker ps, you will not see anything running over here. And if you just wanted to say restart it, you just have to mention the container ID, and this should be up now. So this is up and running now. This is just 3 seconds ago. And stop, start, and if you wanted to delete it, it's very simple. The disaster commands are always very simple. Just stop, and to remove sudo docker rmi and the container ID. Oops, I should have run this command. Either I mention the image name, or I'll mention the yes, this is done. And if you say sudo docker ps, there is nothing, and this is how we deal with it. So dockers are very important in case you are going through some of the open source relational databases and something like that. In case, try to do use Docker images, the containers, and you can play around with that. I hope this is going to help, and thank you.